Today is Monday, October 25th, 2021. I would like to call to order this regular board meeting of the Othello School District Board of Directors. We will begin tonight with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin tonight, is there the need for Spanish translation for anyone tonight? I don't think so. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Moving on to item A2, we'd like to welcome all our guests that are here in the boardroom tonight. Those of you that are online, thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedules to observe us conduct our business tonight. I would like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda with a change. Personnel assignment number 1 in the required approvals. There is a separate document that will be uploaded. There was a happening that occurred. Just to be correct on our procedure, it was already in the agenda, so we have to modify that or amend that tonight. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made to approve the agenda with the replacement of the personal assignment number 1 to be corrected. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Jen, are you muted? Did I hear a yay? Okay, Director Stevenson is on via Zoom tonight. Okay, moving on to item B1. Is there any public comment, Marissa? Would like to remind the public that there is an avenue for public comment. Let's not forget that. Moving on to item B2, board member discussion. Director Stevenson, legislative report. Hold on, Jen, we can see you're talking, but we can't hear you. Hold on, Jen, we're trying to get it to where we can hear you. Thumbs up if you can hear us, Jen. Okay. Technical difficulty. We're going to move a few buttons and it'll be solved. Can you say hello, Jen? Can't hear you. We're going to hit the volume on a couple of computers here, Jen. Apologize for the technical difficulties to the folks in the audience here and those of you online. Keep trying, Jen. Jen, you are unmuted on your end, correct? Is your volume up on your apparatus? We have everything connected correctly and still can't hear you, Jen. I can barely hear you. You said Lindsay or something. No, we can't. We're going to give you a phone call, Jen, and put you on speaker, see if that resolves this.
Do you want to try and put me on speaker, Marissa?
You're on speaker now, Jen. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, for legislative report, I emailed the 3 legislators, and I heard back from Representative Schmick's office. They said that they were willing to, that he's pretty open on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. No, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. And so they said, give us a day or two in November. So, what does the 1st or the 8th for November look like? I'm thinking like a lunch meeting. Even if he doesn't come, we could always Zoom them or whoever.
The 1st at noon would work for me.
It's good for me.
November 1st at noon. It's a Monday.
Monday.
Are you in town? Would you be able to Zoom, Lindsay, or? Okay. What was the other date, Jen? The 8th?
The 8th. And we need to check with the district office too, which of those, if those days work.
8th works for me.
They're looking at the calendar.
So do both of those days work?
No, the 1st does not work for Lindsay. She's got a doctor's appointment at that time, but the 8th works for all of us and the district as
Okay.
well.
Okay, I will email him back and suggest the 8th at lunch, and then hopefully they can connect with everyone, or we can at least see how many of them we can get. That was all I had for legislative report.
Okay.
And if I need to talk again, do you want me to call like this?
Yes, if you would, please.
Or can I post it in chat and Marissa says it?
That works as well. She's got an eye on it. So if that's easier, convenient, more convenient for you, that's good too.
Because the sound is it's crazy for me on this, so I think I'll try the chat method.
Very good. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you taking the time to zoom in even
Okay.
though you're not here.
Thanks.
All right, we have our plus deltas of our last meeting. I think it was a very positive meeting. Things to approve upon. You'll notice tonight we do have some structured times to the agenda, not meaning that they're hard and concrete, but we will try to abide by those to make the flow of the meeting a little more uniform. Topics were sent over. The WASDA topics, the presentation, we learned that if we got something that major going on, so it doesn't take 30 minutes of our agenda, we'll do a better job of that. Superintendent goals in the calendar is there, like we committed to doing, in case there's anything that we needed to change. Nobody notified me of any changes tonight, so thank you for that. Moving on to item B3, student representative reports. Glad to see both our student reps are here. Elise, welcome back. Consuelo, thanks for being here. Floor is yours.
Alrighty, I'm back. So I kind of want to do this a little bit differently than we've done in the past. I don't have a report this week from the principals, but Lindsay and Jen and Pete and Consuelo and I just had a meeting right before this about the WASDA meeting that Consuelo and I attended, and we also talked about the Student Advisory Council that I know Pete has discussed with you, so I kind of wanted to just bring up a few topics from that. And then I kind of wanted this to be like a discussion more. I want to hear what you guys think. If you have anything to add, please add it. Pete, if you have anything to say, go ahead. So Consuelo and I attended a meeting with WASDA last week. We met with student reps from Washington State, and then there were 2 WASDA representatives there. One of them was, I believe she is in charge of like socials and stuff for WASDA. And then the other one, I'm not exactly sure what he was in charge of, but he was kind of the leader of the meeting. Let me pull out my notes, sorry. We just kind of discussed starting this WASDA Student Rep Council, basically. We discussed some future topics we want to go over. We talked about how everybody's doing on their school board, and then we just we kind of introduced ourselves, we discussed how often we're going to meet. So I think Consuelo and I are going to be meeting with this WASDA Student Rep Council about, I think every other week is what we're trying to start. So I'll be having regular things to share with you guys from that if you're wanting to know what goes on in those meetings. I also am going to contact a couple of the students from that meeting about a couple different things, one being how they get their student reps onto their school board, so that hopefully we can do better with that in the future. And then I'm also going to talk to another one about they have a student advisory council in their district, so I'm going to talk to them about that. So that was all I wanted to share about the WASDA meeting. Do you have anything? Okay, so moving on to the meeting that we just were in. Sorry. So we are going to go ahead and I think start that student advisory council. We talked about meeting in November. Pete is going to kind of get that started. If you guys have anything you'd like to add about that, any questions, feel free. We talked about basically just everything Pete told you guys at the meeting because I wasn't there, so we talked about that. We also talked about starting a social media page, possibly an Instagram for that to help get students on it, because we were just kind of discussing how we have difficulty getting students in our community to share. So we're hoping to get some of that started. So if you'll have any questions or comments, feel free. Other than that, I am finished.
No, I just like it. It sounds like this is a positive thing. It sounds like you guys are gung-ho for this, and I hope we get some good participation out of it and get some true feedback from this. Thanks for spearheading it or being a part of it. Appreciate it. Consuelo, anything you'd like to share tonight?
Not really, just I'm just really excited about the whole student advisory thing, because I feel like the more representation us students have just besides me and Elise would be a lot more helpful to get this
Awesome.
going. So yeah.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing the feedback. Yes, if we will refresh our screens so we can have the change that was made, the amendment made to the agenda before we move on. Having said that, I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's required approvals.
I make a motion that we approve tonight's required approvals.
Motion's been made by Director Prowse. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Second's been made by Director Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item. Oh. Do you have a question, Jen, or was that your?
So Jen does have a few questions in here. She said, is the Talking Points bill for $22,000 the yearly fee?
Yes.
Her next question is, what is the difference between WSIPSI's WCEPS and WSIPSI's WCIPS? We are paying both in AP.
Yes. So one is for the Wisconsin Center for Education Products and Services, and it's for an assessment, the WIDA assessment, all the acronyms in education. It's for curriculum and testing materials for our limited English proficiency assessments. And WSIPSI is more commonly referred to in our system as Skyward. It's the software program for finance, student management, HR, employee access, all of those things. And so these are annual fees for those services.
And her last question says, on the ATV quote and approval, the amount for the vehicle is being requested, but not the plow cost. Just wanted to check on that.
The amount of $88.70, that includes the snow plow. So if you break it out, it's $77.76 for the ATV plus $10.94 for the plow. Looks like she
Okay.
gave a thumbs up.
All right, well, I will retract the vote. I don't know how to exactly do it. per the rule. So now that she's had her questions answered, all those in favor of approving required approvals, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. I'll now entertain a motion to approve account payables warrant number 2.
I make a motion to approve accounts payable warrants 2.
Motion's been made by Director Prowse. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Director Schutte. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I will have to abstain from this vote.
Okay, motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. Moving on to item C3, superintendent informational items.
All right, well, good evening to everyone. So it looks like we're about 10 minutes ahead of schedule, so that will give us about 10 extra minutes to shine the light on someone special here tonight, and that's Orland Favreau. So, Greg, if you and Travis would help, like, bring the chair out front, and we'll have Orland sit there at the mic for his speech. And
You're upside down.
Orland, if you would come up front just for a few moments. Round of applause for Orland for showing up tonight. Right there, that's good. Yeah. So I think. That feels pretty good. Yeah.
I think you need to be up here, Orland, so the camera can see you, because nobody can see you up here. Come on now. Over here? Over here, like in front of us over here. Right there. Let's get in the spotlight right there. You want me to dig off my hands there?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, we appreciate Orland being here tonight, an opportunity for us to recognize him for his service to the Othello School District, and I think what he and his family have meant to this community and to this system. So, Orland, if you'll give us a few minutes of your time, we're going to talk about you a little bit, and would welcome the folks who came here tonight to support Orland. You as well feel comfortable to come up and share anything you'd like about Orland. There are several notable things that happened in 1980 other than Orland getting hired in the Othello School District, and they connect well to his 41 years of service. And so I want to share a couple of those. In 1980, the movie 9 to 5 came out. It was one of the more popular movies that year, and we can all be certain that Orland's time in our maintenance department, he would have loved to work those hours. It wasn't very often that it was 9 to 5, especially during the winter months, but he showed up day after day. Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980. Probably not as bad as a pandemic, but a disruption nonetheless. And Orland has been known to erupt from time to time, especially when a principal asks him to move a wall, add a door, or move 15 bleachers at the last minute for an assembly. In these situations moving forward, Orland's words will echo in my ear. I'll do it if you tell me to, but it's a really bad idea. The miracle on ice occurred that year from a great hockey team at the Olympics. Orland and the crew he's led are exactly that, a team. There are a lot more students, more staff, and more facilities in the OSD than there were in 1980, 1990, or 2000. As the district has grown, Orland and his team maintained our facilities so they would be ready for our kids and our staff. The Rubik's Cube was a popular puzzle game in 1980. Orland has painted lines, mowed fields, planted and replanted grass, repaired tracks, fixed bleachers, put up scoreboards, you name it, ensuring that our student athletes had an opportunity to play the games they love. For 41 years, Orland has been solving puzzles, big and small, to help our students and staff. The Post-it note was invented and released in 1980. Orland isn't great about email and only just a little better at taking notes. But if you ask him when something was built, when someone was hired, why the district did what it did over the past 41 years, he's got an answer. We will certainly miss Orland's answers, his expertise, and his presence. But we are so excited for his opportunity at retirement and wish him much success in the next 41 years. Here's to a great guy and a great career. Orland, we wish you well.
The mic behind you is hot, so please take your time.
I don't really have much to say. It's been a long road, and there's been a lot of bumps, but there's been a lot of good times too, and I just thank all of you for taking a minute. That's awesome. I'll pick up the chair tomorrow.
We appreciate you, Orland. Thank you.
Yeah, take care. I couldn't follow that speech anyway. Yeah, there you go. See you, Greg. Yeah, we'll leave the chair there. You know, I think after 41 years, we can leave his chair for a little bit. So, pretty remarkable that someone stays with an organization for that long. One, that they have the determination and the perseverance to do it, and that they find a place that can put up with them for that long. So, really appreciate Orland and his contributions to the Othello School District.
Just real quick, Pete.
Yeah.
When I first came on the board, I didn't know Orland, but personally, but I was talking about him one time visiting with my dad, and my dad said, Orland's still there? There's not a man in Othello who knows more about the school district of Othello than Orland does, and it'll be a sad day when Othello School District loses him. So kudos to him and his career here that he's meant so much to this district.
Yeah, I think there are lots of stories out there about Orland Favreau, and yep, so we wish him well. Now on to a few business items. We do have a procedure we'd like to share with you, 5282P, and we're going to ask Sandra Villarreal, our Executive Director of Human Resources, to come up and just share a little bit of background around this procedure.
So we have, is this on? Yes. Okay. 5282P, it's coupled with the policy that we're presenting tonight, and it's in regards to the non-disciplinary dismissal in relation to the Proclamation 21-14.1, the mandate on the COVID-19 vaccination. So this procedure will really give us an opportunity to dismiss employees who are not in compliance with the mandate. And so currently we just have the DOP on disciplinary discharge. So this would be a non-disciplinary discharge. Any questions?
Just to be clear, before they're discharged, that has to come with a vote of approval by the board?
Correct.
Okay. So this is just giving the district an option of letting someone go that doesn't look bad? I mean, that doesn't look like a flat out, like you were a terrible employee, so you're terminated. This is
typically there's only discharge for disciplinary reasons or performance concerns. And those individuals are not eligible for rehire generally. And then in this procedure, you'll see that in this policy, it would give us an opportunity to make those folks rehire eligible if they met the mandate or if for whatever reason the proclamation no longer existed.
great.
I do have just a couple comments about the procedure here, and that's typically in the policy governance model, you all would recommend or adopt a policy and then ask for the interpretation. What feels a little clunky here is we've put a policy recommendation down below for you to review and consider. What we're providing is our interpretation of how that procedure would go. So it might feel a little bit backwards, but we thought it was appropriate to do them both in the same meeting to give the board some time to consider it. So thank you to Sandra for submitting that and for sharing that piece. The next item.
Excuse me, Pete, so is it a second time we come back and vote on it? Is that the procedure? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that will be determined this evening as you all talk about it.
All
Yep.
right, thank you.
And then we do have an additional item. We're going to ask Gina Bullis to come up and share some concepts around capital project planning and some exciting news around an update and next steps.
So I don't get to steal the thunder of the community work group, but I can kind of, you guys all remember the little mountain range we presented last May. So November is just around the corner, and on that mountain range in November was the time frame when the community work group was going to be bringing a recommendation to the board. So that community work group has met 3 times and is ready to make a recommendation to the board. So one of the things we need to do is get a special board meeting on, sorry, in your books next week. We kind of needed to work around the schedule of the people that are on that committee, and they're available on November 2nd. We're looking at 6, 6:30, or 7. We shouldn't need more than an hour. I mean, they're basically presenting their work and the recommendation, and certainly some questions with the ultimate request for the board to consider approving, so to move forward. But of course, that's your decision. So if you guys can look at your calendars and decide whether 6:30, 6 or 7 next Tuesday would work for a special board meeting.
I'm available at any of those times.
I'm not.
Oh, you're not available at all?
No.
Okay. I'd rather have it be later. I have another commitment, but
7?
that would be great if it's not too late for all of you that have to stay.
We actually have a church meeting with elections as well.
Okay, yeah.
Tuesday wouldn't work, because I will be involved at the meeting at church. Can it be during the day? Well, no.
Well, our work group individuals work in the community, and so.
Will there be decisions made that night? Can I be,
So let me just I'll kind of lay out the next step. So one of the,
because I don't want to halt the progress. And if
Yeah,
somebody could
so
just maybe fill me in the next day.
you're
I'd
going
love
to
do that.
hear, you heard everything they heard in their first meeting. So when we did our work study on September 14th, it was a presentation for the board facility workshop. Basically, all that information was shared, and that was their foundation moving forward. So they've worked through the values and the plus deltas on the different 3 options that we brought to the board, and have landed on one. So I'm not going to steal their thunder, but they would be presenting that, requesting approval for the board, because on the other side of that, there's quite a few things that need to be done in the month of November. Some involve the board in order to be have a resolution filed by with the county by December 10th if the board is going to approve moving forward with a February bond. So those are, there's some things hinged on board decision, not only moving forward with the recommendation, but also, are we moving forward with a February bond? And in that presentation, there'll be recommendations and reasonings why moving forward. So, can you zoom in?
Jen said 7 p.m. works for her.
Does it work for you?
It works for me.
Okay. So, is it possible to do a before or after with a before, maybe with Mike?
Yeah, I can coordinate with Mike's schedule and see if we can get something.
What I was going to ask, but Sharon said it later the better. If you're saying it's an hour, if we could do 6:30 to 7:30, and I could scoot out of here at 7:30, it might make it work.
Yeah.
I'm
do
sorry.
6:30.
Okay, I mean, I just made a commitment just like 2 hours ago, and I can't leave the kids because I have nobody else.
Okay.
But I can try to make 6:30. I mean, I'll just make it work.
I appreciate it. If we
work.
can do 6:30
So
to
do
6:30.
6:30, okay.
Wait,
I'll-
Jen,
I'll make
is
the
that- will that be
accommodation.
Okay, Jen?
Let me ask Jen.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I'm. it's my
And
fault.
the presentation shouldn't be more than a half an hour. We just have allowed an hour for any kind of
Sure.
questions, or community members might, have questions, so.
Jen said she can't do 6:30. She's donating blood.
All right. Well, you fill me in, Pete?
Yeah, I can certainly fill you in. Gina's done an excellent job, her and Greg, of keeping me up to speed. I've been at most of the meetings. So we can maybe do a little preview with you, and
Sure.
then sit down with the rest of the board
Okay.
on the 2nd. That's all right.
I don't want to impede this at all. I don't want this.
Possibly even meet with you before, so you have it right before.
I'm okay with that. I mean,
Okay.
we'll make it work.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
just let me know.
So we're going to plan on 7 o'clock on the 2nd then, is that correct?
Thank
Okay.
you, everybody. So I have to impede on your schedule later in the month. So we have the meeting on the 2nd, so hypothetically, the board's excited about this and says yes. There's a few things will happen in your normal board meeting on the 8th, but we also need to schedule a work study session with Jim McNeil. He's the bond counsel. You guys have probably met Jim McNeil before. He'll come down from Spokane. He likes to meet with boards to go through the bond planning process, especially when it's brand new for a board. So that would be about an hour, and that can either be done in the morning on the 16th or 17th, or an evening like 6 o'clock or later. He's coming in from Spokane, so and those have timing reasons, because that needs to take place before the February 22nd board meeting, because that's when a bond resolution would be passed. So I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I have to play these out.
Sure.
If the board says yes to this, this is next steps, this is next steps, so.
So we need to meet with him in November?
Yes, so the 16th or 17th, and it's a work study session, and he goes through the whole bond planning process and what specifically are your roles as a board, and there's a few responsibilities, and it just provides more clarity. He finds that it just works better in a special board meeting as opposed to attached to a regular business board meeting.
Since we leave on the 18th to go to WASDA, maybe let's shoot for the 16th, so that the night before we leave, I can have a date with my husband or something.
Good
So
idea.
is that the visitation day? The 16th?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a time on that? Because that's late.
Yeah, it'll run the same format till about 10 a.m. So if we wanted to meet right after that or around that time.
I can reach out to Jim and see if he can't come down, he could do a Zoom.
Just basically block out the morning of the 16th.
It's late start. I have late start. I have to take kids to school, so I'll be late for that meeting, but it'll be before 10.
On the 16th?
Yeah.
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Late start day.
It says on here November 16th is a Monday,
But it's a late start, isn't it?
but November 16th is actually a Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Our board calendar says it's a
Okay,
Monday,
that's what I'm
but
looking
it's
at, is the
actually a
calendar.
Tuesday.
Okay, so I can do that.
So the 16th around 10:30.
That is a Tuesday, okay.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it 10:30 on the 16th, immediately after the Ludicaga site visit. And if he decides to come down, we could gather here, or we could Zoom.
Okay. All righty. Thank you very much, and be ready for some great things on the 2nd.
All right, thank you, Gina. That's it for superintendent informational items, Mike.
All right, appreciate that. Moving on to item D1, we have Wahidas Elementary in the house, and they have their report. So Justin and Sandy.
Well, thank you for having us this evening. It's always a pleasure for us to come and share some things that you don't see on those site visits. And I think it's safe to say that when you did visit, you were able to hear some of the challenges that staff are facing, and also see some of the really great things that are happening in our classrooms. So if you could go to the next slide, please. I kind of wanted to bring us back to some of that information that we shared this summer. So some of these things that you'll see on the next few slides might not have been things that you saw in the classroom. But if you remember, as we met with principals and with the board, everyone had an opportunity to share what they were going to focus on for the year. And if you recall, Wahidas had about 3 areas of focus. And so this first one, I won't go through every single piece there, but I did want to highlight a piece on that analyze and act area. And that is around grade chairs leading interim meetings. So you didn't get a chance to see any data meetings happening that day as you visited classrooms, and that's perfectly fine. But I did want to tell you a little bit about what those are about and how they're impacting students in the classroom. So I think we spoke a little bit last year about developing a scope, a sequence, kind of a roadmap of instruction for our teachers to make sure that kids really learned the standards that they needed to learn that year and be prepared for the next year. Another result of that happening was teachers created assessments that would measure at certain points of the year how well kids were doing on those standards. And we term those interims in the education world. And on those interim assessments, after they're given to students, there's an opportunity for grade teams to meet with both Justin and I and to really look at how students did, to talk about what they really understood, to talk about some of the things that they didn't really understand and maybe why that happened. So it's kind of a really neat process for us to be involved with teachers. They really know their students well. They understand the content they're teaching. And then they're able to collaborate together and come up with some really powerful ways to move forward and improve the student learning for those kids. This year, the highlight for us and the area of focus is Justin and I really facilitated those last year, but this year it's acting more as co-facilitators and allowing some of those grade chair individuals to take more of a leadership responsibility. In the education world, we talk about that as distributed leadership. So these grade chairs taking ownership of their team, leading their team in these discussions, and really coming up again with strategies that will help kids learn. If you go to the next slide, this kind of ties in with the data-driven instruction, and this is now really very apparent on one of our walls in the hallway, a hallway that has a lot of traffic in it, and in which teachers and kids can see visually each day. And so this ties to this first piece in making the data visible. We have a goal that's set for the year, and when you post that goal, I think there's some initiative and some urgency around really working towards that goal. So we'll keep track of those interim assessments this year. We'll post those results up for us to see, and then encourage each other. This certainly isn't an opportunity to point out who is better than the other. It's an opportunity for us to talk about what is really happening in that room that these kids are really learning, and an opportunity to collaborate together.
Yeah, you can go to the next one. Focus number 2 for us this year is in the area of planning. So making sure that we are really ready for every lesson every day. Last year we really focused on, there's 4 levels of planning. There's the year-long plan, the unit plan, the weekly plan, and the daily plan. Last year we really focused on the year and the unit. This year we're digging into the week and into every day. So to do that, our teachers, we met this summer and we went through a week-long training, Get Better Faster training, and we dug into lesson planning itself. What components, when we say strong lesson plan at WHEDIS, what do we mean? And so our teachers came up with the common components that they all agreed on, that they said, yep, this is what a really strong lesson plan looks like here at WHEDIS. And then what would the template look like for us to work with every day as we plan? Teams get together at least once a week to plan ELA and at least once a week to plan math. So at least 2 times a week they're getting together for 45 minutes to anywhere to an hour and a half to really dig into their upcoming week and what every day is going to look like. So if you can go to the next slide. So these are just 2 examples of, on the left there is the original template that we came up with. So you'll see all the different components of the lesson plan that our teachers have agreed upon that makes a strong lesson. And then on the right is just a different version. So there's freedom within form. We agreed upon the components, but it doesn't have to look like this. They can work together or with their team and really dig into it. Also, we talked a lot about this is a process. We don't want to really overwhelm anybody with this process, but we do want to get it started. And so we agreed upon 3 different components within there that we're going to say this year we're going to really dive into these. And they are the lesson objective, the I do portion, or the teaching and modeling, and then the exit ticket, or the assessment at the end. So for every core ELA and math lesson in our building this year, that will have been planned. Those 3 pieces will have been really fleshed out with their team. Then next year we would layer on more components of the lesson plan, but they would be used again, so we wouldn't have to restart. So the next slide just shows you just a couple examples of some of the work the teachers have done. We just cut and pasted right out of their plans. So you'll see that there's an example of a lesson objectives, a couple I do portions of the lesson, and then the exit tickets themselves. And again, the teams are really working hard on this and working together, and it's been a pretty cool process to see. So you can go on to the next one.
That last focus that we identified for this year, again, was around feedback. And so I think we've been in school, this will be the 9th week. And for our K-6 teachers, that means that they've received about 13 visits from the both of us combined together this year. So Justin and I make a concerted effort to get into classrooms weekly. Each teacher typically would receive one visit from each of us, so 2 visits per week. And that's important to us for many reasons. One, it establishes a relationship with the teacher, and we see what's going on. We see the learning that's happening. One, we're able to say these are really good things that are happening. And then 2, here maybe are some considerations that could help moving forward in the student learning. So again, we've committed to be in each classroom at least 1 time per week. We continue to track and monitor this feedback. Each teacher gets a feedback form through email. So once we type into our Google form the feedback that we've given and we hit submit, the teacher will receive an instant email with that feedback in it so they can see what we've shared. And that's really helpful for teachers. Sometimes it's pretty nerve-wracking when administrators come in and they just want to know what you were thinking. And so this provides an avenue for them to see right away. The other piece around that is the talking about what we see in classrooms. And so it's very typical for Justin and I just to talk about what we see after we go into classrooms and to share the really good things that are happening, as well as looking at those lesson plans before we go into the classroom to see what are we going to see, what kind of feedback can we give that will be most meaningful and helpful for teachers moving forward.
There's some other cool things happening in the building this year that we really wanted to highlight. And so we made a list for you here, and I'll go through quickly and kind of try to explain them. Hawk Buddies is new to us this year. It was started probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. We all got together in the Commons, and we divided all 600 of our kids, divided by about 70 adults, because there's 70 of us in the building. And we all came out with 8 or 9 Hawk Buddies. And so every single kid in our building has an adult that is looking out for him, checks in with them once a week. Notes are going back and forth between the Hawk Buddies and the kids and the teachers. It's been a pretty cool process that we've gotten started. And the goal behind that is to really help kids understand that somebody here is always going to be looking out for you, outside of just the regular teacher or whatnot. But somebody else is going to be here that's watching and checking in on you and wanting to know how you're doing. The house system. We're getting that back going again after a little bit of a lull or a break that we had to take in there. But it's back up and running with our 4 houses. Every student that comes into us is one of 4. We say 4 houses, 1 family. Have a lot of fun with it, but it really creates that sense of community. And like I said, we're getting that back up and running with our Dean of Students, Amy Palmer, taking the lead on that. Student leadership is another thing that our Dean of Students has taken off with this year. The 5th and 6th graders meet quite frequently, and they're planning a lot of different things for the students and hallway decorations, things like that. But it's been fun to watch them, and it's something that our 5th and 6th graders have to apply to get into, and so it's kind of an honor thing that they have. Brothers as Allies. We've started a group with probably 8 or 9 6th grade boys that we're learning how to really work together and show respect for each other and things like that. But we meet once a week on Wednesdays, and the curriculum there's a picture of it. But we just meet and talk about things like that and learn how to work together instead of against each other. Character development lessons. Again, our Dean of Students has done a great job, Amy Palmer, of getting into the classrooms and really being proactive, teaching those lessons and talking about that, getting the kids really discussing it. And then we all have fun with our weekly dress-up days. You guys got to see when we were there, or when you were there last week, Crazy Hair Day and Crazy Sock Day. So we have a lot of fun too. We try to work really hard, but have fun while we're doing it.
And in addition to those weekly dress-up days, we're trying to bring back our wear your Wahidas gear on Mondays, wear your house gear on this day. So some of those system pieces that we had lost not being in school are starting to come back too. The last thing that I'd really like to address is typically there's a group of individuals in our building that do so much work for us and definitely do not get the credit that they deserve. So I wanted to take an opportunity at this last slide to highlight our classified staff members. And you can see several pictures up here. This is typical in our system to see paras working with small groups of children in ELA and math. And anytime that you visit some of those groups, you can hear the dedication and the passion in their voices. You can hear the relationship in their voices, and you can see that as they interact with the kids. And I just wanted to take an opportunity to really highlight how grateful that we both are to have these paras in our building and the phenomenal job that they do with our children each day. So that concludes our presentation, and again, appreciate your visit. It's always a joy to have you in our buildings, and welcome any questions at this time.
I have a question. So with all of this lesson planning that your teachers are doing, does that happen? When does that happen? Is that Monday mornings?
Typically, that happens Monday mornings for that hour-and-a-half PLC time. There are some teams that do additional planning during grade preps on other days as well.
Okay. It just seemed like, wow, above and beyond, as always. I have to be careful about what I say, but you guys make me wish I was in 6th grade at Wahitas, because just, it's so my vibe to do all like the dress up days and leadership and all of the things you guys have going on. My brother's kids go to Wahitas, and I know how much the leadership program you have means to them and how seriously they take it when they apply to get in. And that really means something to me as someone who's in the community and someone who's a parent to kids that go to this district, and just invested in kids growing up to have really strong character and being leaders, and starting them at such a young age and showing them how important that is. And that's something that they really strive to want to be a part of, is your leadership program. It just speaks volumes to me about everything you have going on at Wahitas. I think you guys are great, and it's so exciting to go to your campus. It really is inspiring to just feel the energy of all the really positive things you guys have going on. And I mean, just feel really proud of yourselves because you're doing such a great job. And it would take a lot for me to go to being 12 years old again, but I would do it just to go to your school. So kudos.
I really appreciate the visits to your school. And you could really tell the momentum and the upbeat that you have there, but I think it's to your guys' leadership too. It's a place where the staff wants to be. They're there every day. One of the things that I really liked is how you position your paras in the morning. It was nice to see that you utilize them all in the kindergarten for, I think it's an hour in the morning. Very valuable asset being used at a great time, especially in the kindergarten classes, especially when they need it. Because that's where we've seen some of the struggles, especially with the face mask on that age of a group of kids at that time. It's just wonderful to see that. And just keep up the great work. Keep up the great work. You guys are putting out great students.
Well, I just want to thank you, because the efforts that you guys put out is showing. And the enthusiasm, it was so enlightening to be there and have these kids so enthusiastic the whole time. I mean, that just really, they were like so spirited. Not because it was a dress-up day, but even, we hadn't really seen a lot of the ELA. We'd seen a lot of math. But it was so neat to see that, and the reading, and they want to read. And we want them to read, so it's just great. And I just think you guys are doing a great job, and you are lucky you have a great staff that wants to work with you. So kudos to all of you. Okay.
Now, as it's been stated, great visit. I'd like to recognize the two of you for your candor in recognizing some of the opportunities for growth. I refuse to call anything a weakness anymore. It's just an opportunity to get better at something. Some of the challenges that every school across this district has faced or is facing, and you guys have, again, grabbed the bull by the horns. You guys have some great procedures in place, some great stuff that you guys are doing. I mean, just the SEL stuff that you guys talked about tonight. My wife had to go buy candy for her Hawk buddies, and I don't know what that's about, but anyway. No, you guys are doing great things. As Sharon mentioned, the atmosphere, I mean, it's contagious. The meetings we had with your folks, the heartfelt desire to do better, we heard that. A few, like I said, areas, opportunities for growth were also mentioned, and you guys acknowledged them, and it's a team, and you guys are striving for it all. So if there's any Hawks listening tonight, great job, guys. You guys are doing awesome. You guys have great leaders. Thank you for what you guys are doing. And I appreciate the inclusion of the classified staff tonight. I mean, those folks, they're doing a great job, and it does. It takes a village, and every single person that enters through the doors at Wahidas is what's making it possible. So great job, continued success, and great visit. Congratulations.
We do have an additional comment from Director Stevens.
Okay.
Oh, forget about it.
So Jen says, under your leadership has a laser focus, as always, and is an exemplar to all other campuses in the district. Thank you for overachieving.
Great job, guys. Okay, moving on to item E1, policy review. Pete, I'm just gonna, they're in here as first readings, and I would like just to give us more time and approve these at the next meeting when the entire board is here physically, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the board's meeting and the board's agenda, so whatever time you all need, we just wanted to.
Yeah, so I just, my message to my fellow board members is I don't know how many of us took the time to read these, I mean, thoroughly. If there's any things that you would like cleared up, any annotations that need to be made that you feel should be in here, at the next board meeting or before then, get those, talk to Pete or Marissa about those things. Both of these, 5282 and 3241, which is a little lengthy, but it is a very important topic, student discipline. Let's fine tune these. Let's take the time that these policies merit, and make sure that if there's anything that we want to question or talk about or discuss, that we do that at the next meeting. I mean, I don't know if there's some obvious stuff that someone wants to get the ball rolling on and wants Pete to start thinking about. I don't know if there's anything like that based on the readings that we've done so far. Okay, Jen has a question.
She says on page 3, it talks about district support. When will that start happening? And she's referring to DOP 3241.
The DOP is not loading on my machine on the PDF, so. Just a moment, Director Stevenson.
I'm not finding what she's referencing. What paragraph is she on, or what? Is there a hyperlink to DOP 31 that I'm missing?
It's on page 3 of this document. Okay. And she's referencing the new policy.
Is it the distribution?
Oh, okay.
Oh, right-hand side, middle of the page. The district will support each school to set at least one goal annually for improving equitable student outcomes, create an action plan or plans, evaluate previous goals and action plans, and revise goals and action plans based on evaluations.
So what was Jen's question?
When will this start?
Yeah, so, and then she followed up with, this may already be happening, and that's exactly where it should go. So what you heard tonight from Wahidas, and you've heard from the other schools that are presented to you, they talk about their academic plans and things that they're doing, but layered in that as well as student discipline concerns, making sure that their handbooks are up to date, evaluating our matrix annually, and setting some goals internally. If we adopt this policy and the board expects, I would imagine under assurance of organizational performance. If the board requests some data about how things are going around these particular goals, we absolutely should include it. But if principals read this policy and see this piece, it won't feel like new work. It'll be things that are already happening in our schools.
So question, normally when we're revising an operating policy, it'll have the original and then with red lines through it. Does this mean that you have fully created this operating policy?
Yeah, I think this is a good introduction for us into what we will experience when we have WASDA review our policies. Some of them will be WASDA model policies, and some of them will be so different that we'll have to present them side by side rather than presenting you one that's totally redlined.
Okay.
We knew this one was lengthy, and the other item that was presented is new to us all and can be controversial, so we wanted to give you time to wrestle with it. But this kind of presentation, particularly if it comes from a WASDA recommendation, we'll provide it most likely in this format, unless it's just a subtle change.
Great catch. I kept looking for the red to see what the difference was until I started reading and thought it's just a continuation of the same thing. Like I said, I'll charge us all with making sure we come ready to approve these if the board chooses to at the next board meeting. Moving on to item F1, the Board of Directors will recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the performance of a public employee. No action will be taken following the executive session, so we will take a 3-minute recess and adjourn at 8 o'clock for a 15-minute executive session. Thank you, everyone.
Mike, would you like the student reps to stay for the end of the meeting, or are they free to go?
They're free to go.